Extra. That haze lingering today as we head into the middle of the week, but we're bringing you the first alert for the potential for severe weather for your weekend as we've declared your Saturday a first alert weather day.
Plus, we're headed to the Florida coast as they could potentially see some tropical mischief over the coming days. We're on your side, what we're tracking and how much rain they've seen so far.
Live on your side. First Alert Weather Extra starts right now.
But first, storm spotter Ryan Carty still on the hunt in the Great Plains and shares another view of a tornado. This was actually a large dust storm and what we call a QLCS tornado. It was a quasi-linear convective system. It's basically a semi-linear line of severe storms. And while spotting storms in Perryton, Texas, this was captured there on Monday in Perryton. But Ryan has been on the quest here, sending us updates. He goes out with teams this time of the year, and they do a lot of studying storm structure and taking tour groups out. But this is, I guess, probably month number 2 he's been out there.
That's not an easy job.
Right.
I mean, you're out in the middle of nowhere sometimes, finding these storms, taking pictures, not having limited food and all that. So props to him for sharing those photos and videos, and hopefully staying safe.
Listen, I went out there for 2 weeks with Mississippi State years ago, and we captured one tornado on the last day. It's not easy to actually spot a tornado, but most importantly, when they send those reports in, that's critical information.
Yeah, it's great for the Weather Service. They let them know, and they can have it confirmed, and that's where people seek shelter and warnings with valuable information.
Well, listen, you and I, Matt, we're talking about the forecast for this weekend. We went ahead, called First Alert Weather Day because we're thinking that there's going to be some strong storms move in Saturday. It's basically out of all the days we look at here in the extended forecast, that's the next big thing. It's going to be a day where we have a large coverage of showers and storms, and some of those storms could be strong. Right now, though, we're still soaking up the sunshine. A live look from Woodstock, that Alabama light wave camera there in Bibb County, but always great seeing the views there across Bibb County and Woodstock. And this is going to be probably the last day with no rain chance we're going to see for quite a while. We're going to see those, at least a tiny rain chance, 20% on most days here coming up, and especially through the end of the week and into next week. Right now, we are dry across the state. Temperatures really heated up out there today. We've seen some upper 80s across many areas, but we're dry at the moment. As we go over to radar, though, I want to show you what's happening back to the west, and there's more active weather happening out across the Great Plains here. You can see there are several tornado warnings. Looks like Wichita Falls there north of Dallas, dealing with a tornado warning right now. There's a warning happening just north of Ardmore. But Oklahoma has just been very active. May into early June, this is typically where we see a lot of the tornado action slide more into the mid part of the country. But there are a lot of severe thunderstorm watches in place. Now, as we move ahead, notice by Saturday that risk slides our way. Now, we're not expecting a major tornado risk for this weekend, but we're going to have another setup Saturday afternoon and evening where we could see some strong to severe storms, maybe some quarter-size hail or larger, a possibility of some damaging straight-line wind gusts. Any storm between now and then is going to bring the threat of lightning, but we really need to pay close attention to Saturday because that risk is a bit more widespread. So that's what we're going to be watching, and why we did call a First Alert Weather Day for those Saturday severe storms. Also, keeping an eye on what's happening in the tropics, as we were talking about. We're monitoring that disturbance over Florida. Big plume of moisture out here, and there is a high pressure that's back to the west of this, over in the western Gulf of Mexico. So what's happening is the flow, we've got this counterclockwise flow here over the Gulf, and what that's going to do is help to draw some of that moisture in from the east over the next couple of days, and that's why we're going to see those scattered showers and storms coming back. And also what's happening is some dust, and we're going to tell you a little bit more about that coming up later in the show. Moving over the Atlantic could impact our region, but as far as all this moisture goes, this could evolve into a subtropical low off of the east coast, and then that could turn into a more classic tropical low development over the next basically over the next 7 days, not just the next 24 hours. And these developments can happen quickly. So we'll watch and see if that happens, but this will not have a direct impact on the coast, but we are going to see some of this moisture slide our way. So at least scattered storms more likely as we move ahead. You can see those rain chances here for us, but especially if you're heading down to the coast Thursday and Friday, rain chances will be even higher. Now, what's interesting is this weekend by Saturday and Sunday, now tomorrow the rain's moving east to west. It'll be moving west to east once we get to Saturday. So things are going to change around quite a bit. But that is a lot of active weather just to show you here what's happening back across the plains. I was checking out some of the storm reports just in, and it looks like that there was a tornado just south of, it was observed from KTLX there, a tornado that was observed. That was a tornado debris signature, actually, is what that's showing. That was south of Oklahoma City. So a lot of wind reports. That's one tornado report over North Texas. It looks like some tree branches broken off there, some gusty winds. They're dealing with some straight line wind related damage right now, and that's going to be the big concern for us as we move into this weekend. But all this stormy weather comes, of course, as Florida is being impacted by all the heavy rain from that wave of tropical moisture we're showing you. And this system is expected to move along the East Coast. Fox News correspondent Bowen Kendrowitz, he has more, and how they're preparing for this year's hurricane season.
Just days into the 2025 Atlantic hurricane season, forecasters are keeping their eyes on the first potential tropical storm that may soak the southeast coast. Heavy rains are expected to spread from Florida to Carolina coast over the next few days. Local response teams are gearing up.
Can never be early enough to get a start on our preparation. It's like a prize fight. Every round is different, but at the end, you're pretty beat up.
NOAA says there is a 60% chance this season could be above normal, with 6 to 10 hurricanes expected before November, and with at least 3 of those expected to be Category 3 or higher. This follows last year's chaotic season, which was one of the costliest on record.
Last year, we took a wallop. It was an absolute knockdown.
Officials are raising concerns amid massive cuts to the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Since DOGE pushed for federal cuts in recent months, FEMA has lost roughly 1/3 of its agency. President Trump has also suggested abolishing FEMA, pushing for states to take on more of the response.
I don't know what FEMA is going to look like this hurricane season. I know that's kind of in flux.
The back and forth on whether FEMA should exist at all does not lend itself to having full confidence that they are going to be the partner on the ground that we saw in the aftermath of Helene and Milton.
Still, representatives from the government agencies say they are prepared.
Protecting human lives and property is our top priority. So we are fully staffed at the Hurricane Center.
Recently, FEMA has reopened training centers to prepare staff for the hurricane season. In New Orleans, Bowen Kudrovich, Fox News.
And there's been many instances when it comes to tropical waves or tropical moisture causing major issues, and it doesn't even have to have a name. And that's what we're dealing with right now in Florida. This area of low pressure just stalling and swirling around. It's got a low chance, may not even become a tropical depression or storm, but it still produces impacts. In fact, they've got flood watches out there for southern portions of Florida through tomorrow morning, where they could easily see 1 to 3 inches of rain, and in some instances over 6 inches. And you can see that tropical moisture continuing to spill across the Florida peninsula. Once again, not truly organized, but still very impactful with some flooding rains. And in fact, as we look at the estimated rainfall totals over the past 2 days, when you start seeing those yellows and reds and purple colors, we're talking about totals over 6 inches or more. So just zooming in, these are radar estimates right around the Miami area, picking up over 6 inches of rain in the past 2 days, past 48 hours, over 6 inches there as well. So pretty intense amounts of rainfall, and more of that rain is going to be spreading into the coastal Georgia, into the Carolinas as that low moves towards the north. Well, we're going to have more updates coming up shortly, and in 30 seconds. Continue to talk about what you can expect for your Wednesday and how the wildfire smoke from Canada and the dust in Africa impacting the air quality across the world.
All right, well, rain chances coming back over the next few days. You can see it's a medium chance here tomorrow. Could see a few pop-ups later in the day, about a 20 to 30% chance. But actually, most of Thursday looks dry, very isolated. And then we go to Friday, and we're talking about some scattered storms. But this weekend still looks like Saturday, the greater chance for wet weather. Well, let's check out the latest smoke plume forecast. I know we've been talking a lot about that over the past few days, but all the Canadian wildfires happening. What's interesting here is you can almost pick out the jet stream because the upper level winds transported a lot of that smoke southward, and most of this is lofted, so we're not seeing major impacts on surface level air quality, but you'll notice a little bit of haze, and this really sets off those vibrant sunset views. You'll notice that again today, but as we move into Wednesday, you can see it starts to thin out, and that's because we've got this flow now rather than out of the north. It's coming at us from the east and southeast direction, but what's interesting is all the smoke moves out, but then the dust moves in from the south, and we're going to be talking more about that coming up here in First Alert Weather as we go over right now. First off, to talk about some of these air quality alerts that's been happening in parts of the country, Matt, related to that wildfire smoke. It just seems like we're going from just basically dusty to smoky, and now we're going to have some rain coming back as well.
Yeah, it's everything there, Wes. That Canadian smoke also bringing poor air quality to parts of the Midwest. Now, the air quality rating in Minneapolis being very unhealthy, causing the Pollution Control Agency to issue an air quality alert for most of the state through tomorrow. And it's believed the smoke is coming from fires burning northwest of Winnipeg and Manitoba. Nearly 27,000 people in 3 Canadian provinces have been forced to evacuate because of those wildfires. And a similar situation actually happened across the Caribbean today as Saharan dust is impacting the regions from Jamaica all the way to Trinidad. And according to the National Weather Service in Puerto Rico, this dust concentration is at its highest amount so far this year. It's also lead to excessive sneezing, coughing, and watery eyes for some residents across the Caribbean.
That the dust travels all the way here from Africa and affects us so heavily is absolutely crazy because the distance between Barbados and Africa is vast.
Well, it's pretty hard to manage since, it's in the atmosphere, but definitely we've been taking medication like, antihistamines, Claritin, that sort of thing. Yeah, just basically that's what we can do.
And that cloud of dust is expected to head towards the south later in this week. And so that's something we've been watching, not only the smoke, but the dust. Here's a live view from Gulf Shores. Still looks a little hazy there, and that could be from some of the dust all the way from Africa. And this is very normal during this time of the year. In June and July, that dust actually limits tropical activity because it's dry and tropical systems need moisture. Here's a view from Panama City Beach. No little dust ain't going to cause any issues there. It looks like a beautiful evening there with temperatures in the 80s. So here's a look at the forecast model with that dust that's moving off the coast of Africa. The trade winds moving from east to west, and you can see all those darker colors. Notice really impacting parts of Florida as we go into Thursday. And the trend is this dust is going to drift towards the north. But notice it's trying to make it to the Gulf Coast, and then it just doesn't make it. We've got these storm systems this weekend. It's going to kind of alter and prevent all that dust from making its way in here. But usually with the dust, yes, you can have health concerns, but it also can produce some pretty vivid sunrises and sunsets. And once again, it can limit tropical activities across the Atlantic. So it can be a good thing at times. Well, don't go anywhere. We continue to talk about the First Alert Weather Day for your Saturday. And we're going to talk about how changing climate is bringing impacts to our glaciers. We'll be right back.
Hey, I was showing Kim. You guys see pictures from And welcome back into Weather Extra. Very dry evening again on the way for us, and temperatures right now we are in the 80s all across the area. We've been telling you about this tropical wave. This is way east and southeast of us, but it's going to move to the north here. Subtropical system, it might evolve into a tropical low, but at this point the chance of development is very low. This stays to the east, but some of that moisture could get pulled in our direction here. That's what we're watching for tomorrow. A few isolated showers and storms. Again, we stay dry tonight. This is 10 o'clock. Another pleasant night out there. You want to get a walk in, light breeze out of the east-southeast direction. Overnight lows in the 60s, and then tomorrow we're looking at highs back in the mid to upper 80s. So no major change in temperatures. Maybe a couple of areas we might flirt with 90 degrees later in the day, and most of the day looks dry. There's lunchtime. We're not seeing a lot of wet weather. That chance for a few pop-ups happens in the afternoon. If you encounter any wet weather tomorrow, it'll be brief, so that's a good thing. So just plan for the possibility of an isolated shower or brief storm delay later in the day, and then the chances drop off again. Mostly dry for tomorrow evening. Not seeing a lot of wet weather Thursday or Friday, but confidence is increasing in a greater chance for weekend storms, and we have Saturday as that first alert weather day for the possibility of some strong to severe storms. I know we have Alabaster City Fest happening, and you know, the timing on this we really won't know for certain until we get closer to the weekend. It looks like maybe afternoon and evening, but there's a chance that heavier rain, those storms could hold off until later in the evening, and most of these events we're able to get those in on Saturday. So let's just watch it and keep a close eye on the forecast. If we get a lot of rain on Saturday, that could impact how much rain we see on Sunday. Right now all the data says conditions are still very favorable for some storm development, so we'll watch Sunday again. If you're heading out to the USFL game, just keep a watch on that forecast. 82 degrees Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday of next week. We'll still have afternoon storms. Like I say, today's the last day where we don't have at least a small chance of rain in that forecast. We get into that classic summer mode where even when we don't have days with heightened storm chances, we'll be talking about some scattered development in the next week with high temperatures in the mid to upper 80s. And Matt, I mentioned yesterday I was talking about some of these temperatures, and I went back, I looked at last year, June 2nd, June 3rd, and we were seeing highs in the mid 80s. And I noticed by June 25th last year, the high in Birmingham was 101 degrees. So it can get hot in a hurry this time of the year. So every time I look at that 10-day forecast, we look at that, we see those mid 80s out there in the long range. Let it stay that way, right? Because you know the big time heat, it is coming. And oh, by the way, I got to share some pictures. Had a great visit today out at Oak Grove, and this is in Talladega County. You often see us show the image from our Sky Vision camera there, but this was at the Senior Center, and so many members of the community came out to say hello today, and we talked about weather safety and talked about the Weather Center and a lot of the tools that we use to deliver the weather forecast here at WBRC. But it was great seeing Mayor Tony White, and just always fun going down to Oak Grove. They have a big festival there in the fall, and it's just such a beautiful community and some wonderful folks there. And they had a great time today with nice big old cake there, Matt, and I had to take the guitar. We had to do a few songs. I was going to ask you. Join me for some tunes sometime, because listen, Matt Daniel can sing.
I mean, a lot of us in the weather team are talented. Mickey is writing songs
too.
Hey,
we got the News Brothers, right?
Hey, we got to do something at some point. So yeah. Hey, we're looking beyond that 7-day. I know a lot of people are wondering, is it going to continue to be wet? It's going to be hot. And as Wes was mentioning, it can get pretty hot around here, especially towards the middle and end of the month. Here's the temperature outlook across the country, and if you see reds, that's indicating temperatures slightly above average. But notice here in Alabama, I will take this. If you don't see red in Alabama in June, July, August, or even September, that's good because we're not looking at abnormally warm temperatures or hot temperatures, and they're looking at odds of seeing near average temperatures. So maybe mid upper 80s still possible for the middle of June. We're talking June 11th through the 17th. And what about rain chances? Well, we're seeing those green colors there across the southeast, so we may see above average activity with scattered showers and maybe some embedded storms. Looking ahead beyond the 7-day, this is Tuesday, June 10th. Notice chances for rain each and every day. This is going to Wednesday the 11th, maybe a chance for some showers and storms. So unfortunately, I don't see any dry weather, so to speak, but I also don't see any organized severe weather. And usually in the June, July months, when you get lots of heating, you can never rule out some strong and severe storms. And of course, we'll also have to monitor the tropics. Sometimes you can get some systems developing near the Gulf or right off the East Coast, but it looks like we'll see some unsettled weather going into the middle part of June. All right, scientists, well, they have a new warning. They estimate glaciers will lose nearly 40% of their mass relative to their size in 2020. And there's nothing we can do about it. CNN's chief climate correspondent Bill Weir has more.
If you think about it, a glacier is really frozen time. It is tens of thousands of snowfalls over centuries forming a giant frozen river. And in alpine regions, it is life or death. It's irrigation water, it's drinking water. Oftentimes communities are built below these glaciers and lakes, so they're vulnerable to landslides, as we saw in Switzerland just last week. But this new science out of the University of Innsbruck in Austria and all other Swiss researchers looks beyond the year 2100. That's usually been the cutoff for scientists to predict what will happen at current rates. But glaciers take a long time to settle. So they went beyond 2100 and found that even if warming stopped immediately, if everybody switched to skateboards and horses and stopped every smokestack in the world from belching planet-cooking pollution, we would still lose 39% of the world's inland ice permanently. There's no scenario where anything refreezes on planet Earth. So once it's gone, it's gone. But if we head towards 3 degrees of warming, if you look at the charts, that's the red line in this scenario. That means over time you lose up to 75 or more % of inland ice. And what scientists told us, that's the difference between adaptability and extinction for some places. In the Himalayas, they've been experimenting with creating artificial glaciers by spraying water in the winter and then creating these mounds of ice that melt over the summer. Technology can help, but the biggest thing that needs to stop is planet cooking pollution, fossil fuel pollution, which really just has political will on its side these days, not so much economics anymore. But every 1/10 of a degree, the scientists point out, is life or death for inland ice, and it's going away, drip by drip. Bill Weir, CNN, New York.
All right, well, we'll be back with your final check on the weather right after the break. Stay with us.
All right. And welcome back to Weather Extra. Matt, looks like we're going to be seeing those rain chances coming back tomorrow. Not a total washout.
No, it's hit or miss, right? So there's going to be spots wanting rain, probably not getting it, and the people that don't want rain probably will get rain. That's how it works around here sometimes.
That's how it works. And listen, we went ahead Saturday. We've called a first alert weather day. That's just because that is a day where we see the greatest risk for impactful weather this week.
Yeah, and you know, our high resolution models that really help us out with the timing, we won't
Right.
get that information until about Wednesday, Thursday. So hopefully over the next couple of days, we'll have a better idea on that exact timing. I know people are really wondering, is it going to be
Right.
the afternoon, that evening? So.
And I know we got the big Alabaster City Fest, a lot of events coming up this weekend, so we'll be watching it closely for you, but we'll make sure we are ready to go. And we'll have the latest tonight. Check in with us for more first at 9.
Have a great